Owen, pleasure to have you today.
Thanks. Good to be here.
How would you describe the world that we live in today?
Chaotic
Why?
with a massive information overload for everyone. And it's something, to be honest with you, I'm actually quite concerned about. But I don't think it's something we necessarily need to be terrified of, but we should be aware. And there's many complicated things that most people aren't aware of.
What's your biggest concern?
My biggest concern is that people will lose what ability they have to think independently, make their own decisions, because everything is set up to guide them, but it's not necessarily the guides that as a parent you might want.
Could you give me an example then of like how that looks?
Yeah. So social media or phones. And most people are carrying a device with them at pretty much all time. They go in and out of varying different the social media platforms, and the social media platforms do shape their views of the world, shape what they consider to be important, shape what they consider to be true, shape what they consider to be untrue. And mostly they're a bit oblivious to it.
Hmm.
They might have an idea that there's something there, but the other fear is that a lot of them they just shut off and then don't trust anything. But this is all manufactured. It's all technological. It's all based on calculations in the background. And these things are very, very powerful. Most people can't comprehend how powerful these are at the moment and how much information and much they know about us.
Hmm.
The scale is astounding.
How does someone know then if they're thinking for themselves? Because we all go around thinking that we're thinking for ourselves. How do you differentiate?
It's a very good question. And probably we can never be sure. We're never sure if we're right anyway. A lot of us are quite dogmatic and we like to believe that we might be at the time. But then if someone explains in the right way, maybe we could see their errors. But one thing you can do is you keep the basics you were probably taught of what we refer to as critical thinking, which critical thinking doesn't mean you're being critical of something. It just means you're looking for stronger, better evidence before you will act on something. So if I met you in the pub and told you that you had to move to Australia because it's the best place in the world, are you going to go straight away without asking someone else? No, you're going to do some research. You're going to check out and see what might be there and you look a bit further. But if you just accept what comes your way, you can make decisions. You can act in ways that might not be to your benefit. Now that's a real simplistic example. You're not necessarily going to go from one person. But if your world seems to be full of people who are saying this all the time, and your streams on your phone of information are constantly pushing something, it's very hard not to start believing it. And most people are aware of propaganda. I don't know if they're aware the scale and the power and how much it's pushed. They can look at historical examples and say, oh, the Nazis were all brainwashed. And yes, they were. They didn't have near the power that we have now, that the large tech companies have now, the big tech. Because this term, you hear this term about big data, massive data, huge amounts of data on us all, on everyone. And if you know someone really well, you don't just know the good things about them. You know their weaknesses and you know their pressure points and you know their vulnerabilities. And these are all used to get us to stay on our devices, to follow these things, ultimately be to purchase something. And you can pay. People can pay, organizations can pay to push their thing out there. Not necessarily the best, but we all have seen varying different streams coming through, and you might see things appearing again and again and again. That's because someone has paid for it. That's how the model works. This is how the model works. Like the famous line that you may have heard before, if you don't pay for it, you're the product. And we're all the product. We're the product all the time. We carry the phone around with us almost all the time. Maybe we install Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. They're all doing this, Twitter. They all do it to varying different degrees. And we might like one of maybe different age groups or different groupings. We will follow a varying different one. And maybe anyone thinking, as you said, how do you know I'm immune to it? It's really, really difficult. Even if you just read one newspaper. Now, in Ireland, they might pretend to be a bit more in the middle. And somewhere like the UK, it's clear that some newspapers might be more, I don't know, Labour, more conservative, or to represent different political views. In Ireland, we have the same. And if you only read one, you're only really getting one side. Now, this is one of the key things, and this is the worrying thing, is that I don't believe that the algorithms, the ways that your information is processed and how it decides what comes your way, I don't really believe that it is your best interests at heart. It just wants your attention. So your attention economy. And we give it. Very, very common for teenagers to have 7 or 8 hours a day on a device.
Why do you think that we are willing to give so much of our time, our attention?
Yeah. Well, have you tried to use your phone recently and turn off location?
I
It's
don't
very,
even know if it's on or off.
you don't even know if it's on or off. That's the thing.
I
It's
think
probably
even
on.
if it's off, it's still probably on.
It's still probably on. If you ever try and use Google Maps is really useful. You
Yeah.
go to a new place, you want to wander around, try and turn it off. Won't work. But a lot of things won't work. An awful lot of the ones, they force that to be on, so they want to know where you are all the time. But we give this away because we get something in return. And maybe that's, you don't get lost. You're probably old enough that you remember driving around and getting lost. We don't really get lost as much these days, or not for as long. So we give something. We give away a little bit of information. We actually give away a lot of information because we get tracked all the time. That's one of the things. So there could be something that we get back. Maybe it makes us feel good about ourselves. Maybe it makes us feel a bit happier when we're down. We see it as a bit of a transaction, but I don't think people are really aware of what they're actually giving away by having the device with them all the time, being logged into the varying different applications, and just how much they're gathering. If you ever look at the settings and see what it needs to be on, it needs your location on, it might need your microphone on, it needs your camera on for things that shouldn't have anything to do with it.
So like microphone, camera, would that be in like the small print and stuff?
Somewhat, yeah. So people don't really look at that. They just want to look at the good stuff. Take, for example, it's just one of the companies, and not talk about it in detail, but Fitbit. Right. I've been wearing a Fitbit for about 12 years because I have a background in athletics. I like data. I'm interested. Now, I know that they're collecting all my stuff, but they share it with me. They give it back to me. That's part of the deal. The European Union has made sure that they have to give it to us. The amount of information I'm gathering is crazy. It knows my patterns better than anybody who knows me. It knows exactly how long I slept, what time I get up. Did I have to get up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet? What time I might have run up the stairs? It's gathering all this stuff. It gathers it from your heart rate. It gathers it from your sleep rate, your steps, and the steps are an interesting one. That's one of the reasons I give it. Like everyone else, I like the 10,000 steps a day. I work in computers, so I'm sitting down a lot at a computer, and I have to get up and try and walk and try and move, and you get this little kick when it gives you a little buzz and says, "Woo, you get 10,000 steps." Kind of the deal I make. Now, I like to think, because of my job, that I know what's happening. I probably know a bit more than others, but I'm still doing it. Whatever, people have a different reason, and I can find the different reason for it. There's a lot of people, don't want this and have this lovely idea of being disconnected, but many people are really disconnected, particularly of our generations.
I mean, I
Not
can't
many.
say that I know anybody.
Not many.
It'd be very rare.
Maybe some people, are much older now, or some of the real hardcore people, I'm not tuning into anything. And then they go on Facebook and talk about not tuning into anything, so they're not disconnected. But it's very, very hard to survive in a lot of the modern world. Even the cash, going into a shop, people, you see the big storm we had, what was it, at the start of the year?
Mm-hmm.
How when the power went to people's houses, how much they're panicking after 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah,
See the queues at a deli counter, like they couldn't survive for 3 or 4 hours without going and buying a sausage roll. And then did they have any cash? Like what happened, that massive outage in Spain and Portugal, which they still don't really seem to know exactly what happened.
Yeah, there was different theories going around about that.
I heard a number of theories, and I've talked to power engineers from Spain and Portugal, and they didn't know. They still didn't know for sure. They thought there was a massive surge, maybe, but it's more interesting is what happened. Like, family members of mine were in Barcelona, were traveling, and these are not 20-year-olds, but they had to dig into the wallet, and they found a 10 pounds sterling, and they managed to get the bus driver to take it to drop them to the airport. Many people have no cash at all, and they use their phone all the time and tap with the card, or we use a card anyway, but it's on the phone. It's crazy how much people rely on tech.
Yeah. Just around that one too. I hear theories. I mean, everyone does. We're connected to the internet, and one of them was that was like a test.
This is what I had heard, and initially, I have a background in kind of computer security as well. And as soon as I heard it, myself and some others in this area said, "That's hacked." It sounded very like it was hacked. Now, I don't know what was hacked. My barber, who's an international guy, told me it was a weapon they were testing, so I don't know if that's the case or not.
But
this is all possible.
But the funny thing about it is, I've heard about these things
Yeah.
before they've happened.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's going to be power outages.
Yep.
You know,
Well, it's like, if you remember, and many people won't have seen these anymore, but I think it's Die Hard 4 is all about what they call a fire sale. Everything must go, all the utilities. And they can be shut off very quick because they're all computer controlled. Anything that's controlled by a computer is vulnerable because it's code, it's logic, and there's always holes in it that get so complex. Could have been that. Could have been some atmospheric cloud overload. I don't really know.
could be.
But, we don't know. But the result is what happened to a modern society. And I've talked to people in Spain, and some of the younger people thought it was fun, and they went to a bar for the day and just enjoyed themselves. Other people are panicking. If you've got a child that needs fed, or they've no food, or you need to heat their bottle, or it's not the same for everyone. People's outlook changes a lot as they get older.
Yeah.
About what they think's important. When you're young, nothing can touch you think, but as you get older, you realize there's a lot can.
Yeah, and actually, the power outage that happened in Ireland, there was no electricity.
Yeah.
There was no. I don't even think the internet was working on the phones. I know, so you had no choice but to come together.
Yeah.
And there was something nice about that too.
There's something lovely, and that's often, unfortunately, lost. There's so many of us, like, we all have devices and we all use them in different ways. But a lot of people, even within their house, they don't talk to each other anymore. And forcing people to, like, dig out a board game, or people to read a book or something that they haven't done for a long time. But that lack of connection, particularly if we're fortunate enough to have, people around us that we know, and we know they care about us, that lack of connection is a big worry. Whereas people are then reliant on either someone far away, who they don't know who it is, or on a computer to help them, and assume that it's concerned. It's not concerned the same way your grandmother's concerned. But people, they don't talk. Well, they talk, but they don't often have the same type of conversations. But things like that did remind people as a small bit that, the power of having people. If you're living alone, I presume it was worse.
Yeah, I can imagine. And technology itself, like, we are somewhat addicted. There's a reliance on it, and I think it can be used as like a soother.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe like a kid with the dummy, but it's a distraction from our emotions. What do you think about AI in the sense of, like, do you think it can get to a state where it can understand our emotions or act like a human?
Well, that's the thing. So a lot of these ones, I heard somebody saying once that we're not bored anymore. We don't let ourselves get bored. Normally, if you were sitting for a bus and nobody turned up, you just have to look around you and read the wall or something. Use our device. We're not bored. But if we looked at it and wasn't something interesting, we probably wouldn't continue to look at it. But if it knows how we're thinking, what we're likely to think, and how we're feeling, that's that point about emotions is very, very interesting. Because it's one of the things computers and the algorithms and the calculations they do, it's numbers with hardware. But the ability to kind of understand, like, some people are much more tuned into other people, and they can figure out, how someone's feeling, or up and down. And maybe we say, I feel sad or I feel happy, but maybe there's other things that indicate that. You might say, I'm grand, I feel great. But then you're lying in bed all day and you're not getting out, or you're not going, I don't know, people, they're not going to the shower, they're not doing whatever. It gives an indication, and people who know them know a lot about that. So there's a paper that myself and Juanita Blue in ATU wrote a couple of years ago. We came up with this concept we called the emotographic iceberg. So emotographics is a term that we coined, and it's based on you may remember the psychographics. When Donald Trump first got elected, the company Cambridge Analytica got into a lot of trouble because they were getting data about people and using it to sway, supposedly, how they would vote. So they had done many things. One of the things they'd done was a personality test, I think, on Facebook. And when people had filled this out free, then they had more points on them. So people might have said, well, I don't want to vote for candidate X or Donald Trump or whoever. But if someone in your family had, worked in the steel industry, and Donald Trump says he's going to bring back the steel industry, and they'd lost their job, maybe it would change. So there's a lot of different points like that. But the things that get people to move, and this underlying stuff is marketers and salespeople know this, and particularly in social media. You want to make them feel different emotions. They say that it's 95% of any buying decision is emotional at some level. There's a bit of logic. We put logic on after it to cover our emotion. Maybe I'll feel better, I'll look better, whatever. But when they have all this different bits of information, they can shape what you will do to some extent. So different emotions are different things. Something makes you happy, okay. Makes you sad, maybe you'll do something feel differently. If they can make you angry, that's the most powerful one. And they don't really care which side you're angry for, but you're much more likely to share something, to comment on something, to push something on. And people used to give out loud about Twitter and X because maybe it's a bit more open. People were arguing. I actually thought it was slightly more interesting at times. But too much time on in there is toxic. You don't want to listen to that stuff. But at least people seem to be having an opinion or a discussion of some description, even if it was kind of controlled. But knowing what people's emotions are, knowing what their triggers are. Like we all know, say you know someone in your family, you know what will annoy them because we know them well. But these algorithms know, and it's often the hidden patterns and the different stuff that gives away their state at a different time. And that was what we came up with this emotographic idea to study the varying different bits of information you give away, like you have smart scales in the house, your weight's going up and down, your sleeping patterns from your devices, what type of music you're listening to. Sitting there listening to Radiohead or REM or something that's a bit more mellow, or you listen to something happier. That gives away a lot of information. And it's very easy for computers to analyze that and come up with an idea of where you might be at the moment. And that then dictates what they're going to push your way. And that has been the way with social media for a good while. We could discuss how some of the different ones are working, but particularly the new AIs, they're far more powerful at it. Much, much more powerful. That's why currently the most valuable company in the world ever is NVIDIA. NVIDIA make the computer chips, the really, really powerful ones that allow this stuff to get to the.
That's the main supplier to OpenAI.
Yep.
Is it all AIs?
Most of the AIs now, this is part of the deal. And there's a lot going on there as well to do with Taiwan.
Okay.
Taiwan, and I met Taiwanese people before, and I met Chinese people. Taiwan's a large island off the coast of Taiwan, or off the coast of China, sorry. And one of the things that it has is it produces the fastest, most powerful computer chips in the world, and has done for a long time. It's been developed there. And the ways of doing this are not something you can put in a container and just drop into Germany or drop into the US. They develop a lot of these. Now, these go, the really, really powerful ones, graphical GPUs, as they call them, the same type of ones are used in crypto mining and things. They do a particular type of calculation. It's called a matrix calculation. But these are used a lot to train these models. And the most powerful ones, the value of them is going up and up and up because the large AI companies want to train on them, and it makes it faster and faster. Now, they don't want to sell them to China. They don't want to sell them to Russia. They don't want to sell them to anyone they consider bad. And a lot of, I think, the political discussion is kind of linked to those types of things as well, and who has control. And the AI stuff is a big race. Microsoft's invested, I don't know, the last I heard, they were putting like 50 billion into OpenAI, and that number's probably gone up since. 50 billion? People realize the scale of that number. What a Croke Park cost, like 400 million. That's like 100 Croke Parks to build. This is just in this, and they're not the only ones doing it, because there's a big race between them and a number of the other companies. Facebook are doing stuff, Google are doing stuff, and they don't want to be left behind, and they really want to be the one that people listen to. Because ultimately, if you think about this and other things, if you use an Apple device, right, you're probably aware of Siri. Siri was like the voice command device and the persona that you could talk to. Now, Amazon put a lot into this, and Amazon had Alexa. Alexa, again, powerful. I use it. I found it interesting. But they wanted to be just the one that you would ask. And it didn't really take off as they should have.
Yeah, because they kind of were the first of their time. What happened to them that they didn't get to the level, say, of OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, came with? What was the
I think
difference there?
one of the things is people talking to a device is still a little bit unnatural to us. And even you say, excuse me, Alexa, or okay, Google, or whatever one you're talking to. Cortana was the Microsoft one. You can get used to that. Initially, they were kind of clunky. They didn't work. They got very good. Alexa, I know well, got quite good. One of the reasons I knew that it worked well, it could understand my Donegal accent, which was a good start, because often they didn't have this stuff. They couldn't understand the way we speak. But they got much better. But with those, if I ask you for give me somewhere to eat. Where's the best place to eat? You might give me a few places, but you'll in your head, you'll put the top one. It gives you one answer. Whereas on a device, you got a number of choices. And we had this with, Google, as people know, or another search engine. It'll give you a number of different options of things that you can pick. And if you're about for a while, maybe you'll scroll on down and try and find something a bit different. Now, they took off a bit and they put them into cars and things, but I think it still is a little bit. People don't always want to talk to their device. I used to type in on our device as well. And I know you can talk to the AIs as well. You can verbally talk and you can type, but a kind of combination one. And if you think about these things like the generative AI, the really powerful AIs, and particularly like ChatGPT, and I can talk a little bit about what the GPT part means, but it's the chat version of it. That's why it's called ChatGPT. There's many other GPTs. GPT's generative pre-trained transformer, like it's a technical term. But what it does is basically means it generates stuff from things that it's trained on a huge amount of information. And transformers are it's a technical thing with a lot of mathematics, but basically what it does is it's a way of going through again and again and focusing on the bits that are important and learning again and again and focusing on this. And it does that many, many times on billions and billions of different tweaks right the way through. And there's huge data centers essentially almost with smoke coming out of them, trying to train this stuff, trying to make it more accurate. So the answers have got a lot better. Initially, if you asked us something, I made a mistake, we'd all laugh at it.
Yeah.
But they've got a lot better.
That is true, because I never used Siri because I just didn't have any interest, or even I had an Android at the time, of using the phone and talking it. Just wasn't for me. But whenever ChatGPT came along, I mean, I type all day and it felt more natural for me, a way to work. So it seems like Apple and Amazon kind of lost that race in a sense. They fell behind.
Well, they fell behind, but they're both still working hard on this.
Yeah.
And the companies are too big to really fall out. Like, it's a bit like, you might be aware of what we call cloud computing. So cloud computing was in a race as well. And cloud just means somebody else's computer, a data center. Now, most of the big companies got squeezed out, except for Amazon, AWS, they got a massive amount, and Microsoft Azure. Now, this knocked out huge companies like Hewlett Packard and things like that. They all had to bail out. Now, the ones don't want to be knocked out of this race. That's why all the big companies are still trying with their own AIs and trying to come up with clever ways of doing it. Now, at the moment, it's a bit odd. People don't know what GPT means, but they've heard of it. They've heard of ChatGPT, and they think it's the same way like a vacuum cleaner and a Hoover. It's one version, but it's become the one that people talk about all the time. It's the most used one, not the only one at all, and a lot of the other ones are as good or as very, very powerful. But it is the one that has really taken hold, and it wants to stay in the lead. It wants to be in charge, because the more people use it, the more information you have, the more control. Now, at the moment, they're making money, but they're not making the money they want to make, because they haven't really monetized it. It's like a loss leader. They're trying to get people embedded and then charge them more.
But they're getting so much information. And the thing about it is, the difference with Google's just like you type 2 or 3 words. With ChatGPT, you're typing a story or like a paragraph or a sentence. So you're able to engage in a different way.
Well, that's the prompts you're giving it, and if it doesn't give you something right and you tweak it. It's like if you're trying to explain something to me and I say, I don't understand, explain it better. We would go through this conversation. Now, people are willingly going through that to try and get their answer better and better. Well, they should be. But it depends what you're using it for. Are you using it to do your homework? Or are you using it just to find out, how to configure a setup?
Yeah.
And even then, I was trying to, bleed a boiler in a house that hadn't been in before. I'm not a plumber. We can figure out kind of how to do it. It's not changing the world. And it'll give you some answer. And if it worked. It's the type of thing, it might have worked, it might not worked. But people are relying on it so much. And they're using it like Google. And it's embedded in all the chat services as well. WhatsApp, Messenger. It's automatically in there straight away. Do you want me to make this better? Do you want me to help with that? And it's actually, I'm very concerned about people's cognitive processes and how they think because of this.
So your concern is how it affects humanity in a sense?
Humanity, and particularly in a way, people don't want to grow older. It's kind of good to be a bit older at this stage, because we've tried to learn the hard way. how to understand stuff, how to figure stuff out. Maybe this was writing, maybe it was, some job you had to do. Whereas the knowledge that we may have learnt, now it could be presented to us very quickly. Could on the internet, these are much better. These are getting much, much cleverer at giving us what looks like a good answer. As an academic and as a lecturer, I have students for whom English is a second language, right? And they're writing as well as any student I've ever seen. That shouldn't be the case.
And why is that?
Because they're taking what they want and they're running it through these things. And if they're clever, they're washing it again and again and again. And it's very hard for us to prove. So, an assessment, it's a big challenge. It's a challenge for everyone. And actually, exams have value because you had to go in and write it down. But I've changed a lot what I'm doing. I'm getting them to speak a lot. I'm getting them to talk and verbally explain to me. Because I don't want to read 5,000 words that are written by an AI. And people will find this, and they find this more and more in work. If I'm giving you something to do that you to give me a report back, if it looks like it's written by an AI, I don't want to read it. Straight away. Huge case did you see recently with Deloitte in Australia? Deloitte's a huge company, do a lot of consultancy, and they were caught, the Australian government paid them $500,000 to write a report, and they got ChatGPT or to write it or write aspects of it, and it was full of holes, and it was full of made up references and things like that. If that's happening to a huge company like that, what do you think's happening to the rest of the people? And how many of these things are being hidden when it's found out? You'll do that again.
Can you automatically tell if students are using ChatGPT or any form of AI?
It depends how clever they are. And most of them, they just want it done. If you remember doing some kind of assignment or some homework years ago, and you just wanted anything to make it go away, and you knew you wasn't going to go well, and if this magic thing had come down and said, "I'll make it better,"
Yeah.
it's very hard not to take it.
Yeah.
And
last minute too.
Last minute, that's the thing, because we don't want to do it. Going into our heart and really thinking about things is hard. It gives us, I don't want to think about it. It's too difficult. People are busy and have lives. There's many reasons for it to be like that. But I was doing something one night. I can't remember what I had to do, but I had something I knew was going to take me another couple of hours to type up and to create and type up. This is about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I wanted to go to bed, and I was tired. And I said, I'll try it with this. What I produced was amazing. And I produced something that looked at least like what I would have done in the next 2 hours. But the key is, I knew what I wanted to do. And I knew what the final version should look like. People are getting it to create stuff, and they don't know what the right version should look like. And if this makes a mistake, that's a big problem. So if it gives them, if I'm trying to secure my computer, and I ask it how to do it, and it gives me all these settings, but it leaves out something obvious, maybe a security person would know, that could be a big problem. And if it's just your own personal computer, it's one thing. What if it's a major system for something, or a hospital, or something that could be hacked? There can be a lot of holes, and people are relying on it all the time. This notion's about productivity. Productivity is good, and it is increasing a lot, but there's a lot of people, and I talk to a lot of people in the industry, and at the top level, they're very wary of letting it do too much because they've seen the mistakes and they know how costly these mistakes can still be.
It does, yeah. It doesn't always give the right answer.
Definitely not.
Like I do use it, and I'm like, okay, that I can tell if something's not right. A lot of the time I'll use it because it'll save me time. I can ask, but I'll kind of know the answer if in some form of way. But I do know that using that more takes away our own cognitive ability.
Yeah, to think, to work something out. Like anything that you know how to do well, I don't know, playing chess. I can't play chess, right? If I asked it would make me look like I was really good at chess, show what it's done, because it has learned from millions of games, and a long time ago, the computer beat the best chess people in the world. But things that we would have learned the long way and would have taken time, people aren't going to do that as much, because they maybe have no need, and some have no needs, okay. But it's when something goes wrong and when it makes a mistake, and they do. These are what we call black boxes, okay? They're so complex. The numbers of different bits of information going into them, the number of what we call parameters of different things that can change, these are in the billions. And if we asked it to do something to pick between us two who was the best for the job, and it picked you and not me, we've no idea why it did that. We have no idea. It's like went into this magic box and came out and go, Ryan's the winner. Why? Now, the European Union, in fairness, are actually quite good at this. GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations, One of the articles, and there's 99 articles, a lot of them are to do with privacy, and it's something I teach as well. But one of the articles, I think it's Article 22, is to do with automated decision making and profiling. And it says any decision made on a citizen or anyone residing in the European Union has to be explainable. Can't be automated. There's a new AI Act, and it's got different categories of things that you can use AI for, and you can't. And in fairness to the European Union, they're not perfect, but they try. A lot of the other ones aren't trying the same way. They're afraid it'll stifle competition. There are, a lot of concerns that they have. And even with this AI Act, there was a lot of difficulty getting it through because people in the European Union or member states said it's going to disadvantage AI companies from France or Italy or whatever. And it probably will. But we need some kind of guardrails in this stuff. And personally, looking at people's development and younger people's development, I'm concerned that a lot of the things, maybe I'm a bit too old already, but things that you think they should need to learn the proper way, they won't learn. They won't learn. Why would you learn? Well, somebody else will do it for you. It's like someone, if you were brought up and you never did anything for yourself, you don't know how to do these things. And it's the same type of thing, but once you go out there, or what happens if it's switched off? Like the example in Spain and all the power went. What happens when people don't have it anymore? And will they still be able to do even basic things? And also one of the reasons with education and school right the way through, there's a whole process. And one of the things you're trying to get is people who come out the other end have some form of education and some ability to think, to assimilate information, to evaluate what's right or wrong. And a big aspect of that, which we work right the way through, is this critical thinking notion. Critical thinking, can you judge? And it's a real privilege, and my job's a privilege to get to teach people. But one of the real things I get to talk a lot about is critical thinking, because I teach them to create these types of models, this type of analytics. One of the things I focus on a lot is what's called machine learning. So machine learning is the learning aspect that a computer can do with information. How it can learn, how it can find patterns. So if you're good at something, how it can learn to get the same answers you would have given. And there's different mathematical ways of doing this, but a lot of it is, if I had 10 people who were good at maths and it took them an hour to do it, this can do what 1 million people would have done. And even like our smartphones could do, like the calculations for the first atomic bomb was a really interesting one, because a lot of it's complex physics in the background. And they had teams of mathematicians sitting there working this out with pencils and things. Your phone is so much more powerful than them already in the terms of what calculations it can do and how fast it can do them.
Yeah, just on that, it's LLMs, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, as a guy from Belfast called John Lennox. Have you ever heard of him?
I've heard of the name, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Well.
I think he's a professor in Oxford.
Mm.
I think. But what I heard him say was that LLMs, the way they are now, is the same way that they were in the 70s or 80s. Don't know how true that is, but
Yeah.
hear me out.
Yeah.
But what has changed is the processors. So the
Yeah.
technology has always been there. We've
Yeah.
never been able to compute as much.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Well, it's essentially not to contradict a professor from Oxford, get myself in trouble. But some of the core technologies, the concepts, what we call neural networks. So there's neurons in our brain. Our brains are very complex. They understand some of it. They don't understand a lot. But different ways they put things together and the calculations they can do. That technology, or how to do that, the calculations and the ability to do them, has been around for a long time. I think from the 50s, 40s, possibly. Now the process got so much faster because they were very laborious. And I remember when I was doing my own research, asking a guy who was a couple of years ahead of me, and he was asking me what I was doing. And I told him, and he says, good. He says, don't use neural networks. He says, use something that works. Because at the time, notoriously difficult to get right. And even the current ones are notoriously difficult to get right. But if you take all the best people, I mean the most computationally strong from the top universities in India, in the UK, in America, to put them all into Microsoft on a team of like 10, 20,000 people, you get results. They will work stuff out, and that's what's happening. So these things are still very, very complex. And the processors and the ability to do this stuff faster and faster. If you think about I don't know if you know in your history, but the computers have evolved, and like the Voyager spacecraft, the ones we sent out of the solar system in the 70s, and I think they left the solar system a couple of years ago. The computers on them are worse than like a digital watch, like a small, I don't even mean a smartwatch. They're worse than those. This was the best they had at the time. Whereas now things are so much more powerful. And these races for these super chips, as they call them, the computer chips, um, are being driven by many things. Now it's interesting because what they're using for AI now, these are very expensive. Anyone's into computer gaming, good graphics card was always quite expensive for a good system. Like
Yeah.
see this Alienware machine or something, it was always really
Mm.
expensive. Now they use the same things that are used for crypto mining, Bitcoin, things like that, because it's the same type of matrix calculation. And it's the same calculations are done for neural networks, but they do them at such scale and they do them at such speed. Massive data centers that are like the scale of these data centers is like, 5 football fields worth of
Mm.
computers. And that's only one, 10 football fields going all the time for months and months and months and drawing more energy than some countries to train. So the new, I don't know, ChatGPT 5 or whatever came out, that used like more power than, I can't remember the exact statistic, but something like that Denmark uses in a year to come out with that. And they want to get better, faster, all the time. There's an interesting one, actually. You may have heard of DeepSeek.
I
DeepSeek's
know
one of
DeepSeek, yeah.
the one came out of China, and the main two in the world by a long way are the US and China that are leading this stuff. But the US is very protective of what they want to do, and one of the things there used to be a lot of, and there still is in academia, and it's a wonderful thing, is we get to go to different countries, we get to talk, we share knowledge. But the US in particular blocked a lot of the Chinese academics going over and back, and they wouldn't give them the same things because the policies were that, these are our competitors. So basically, a lot of the team, or one of the team behind DeepSeek, sat down and said, right, it's like watching that Rocky film. You can't train hard because, his fists are gone or whatever. They said, we can't do this and we can't do this and we can't do this. So what can we do? And they went and looked at a whole lot of things that already existed and put them together in a different way. And this took a huge amount of money off NVIDIA. They announced one morning that they'd done the same thing at the same scale and the same accuracy for so much cheaper and for so much less. But they just had come at it from another point of view. And those type of evolutions and change will happen. This is happening. Like at the moment, we're still working with hardware, physical computing device, physical tiny, tiny transistors inside them. But there's moves towards different types of computing, quantum computing, biological computing. You may have heard this to talk about quantum computing. It's a quantum anything is crazy, but it's like the idea. You may have heard this thing that if you understand quantum physics, you don't understand quantum physics because it's way out there, very mathematical. But there's types of computers that are being built. Some of them are theoretical. They're getting some notions, but they're basically so much faster. It's like no password will ever be secure again because there might be 20 billion combinations and can try them all like that. There's just the scale of this thing. So once that happens, if it happens in that scale, these will get better and better and better. And this takes us into the realms of sci-fi.
Yeah, because I do have an interest in all that too.
Yeah.
And like quantum computing, I heard about recently, a few months ago maybe, I don't know, about a quantum computer that found something instantly. So it's the theory I heard is like it's entering all possibilities,
Yeah.
getting the answer in and maybe another dimension,
Yeah.
a parallel dimension, universe, and coming back with it.
Yeah, no, there's crazy stuff happening in the background. A lot of them, they don't actually know exactly what happens in the quantum world, and it's going into hardcore physics, but it can be all things at the one time. Essentially, that's the simple idea, or not a simple idea, but it can be all. It's got all the answers at one go.
Like
And
that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, that's the thing. So a lot of the movies are brilliant, and I actually teach my students. I send them to watch movies.
What movies?
iRobot.
Yes,
I
good
love
show.
iRobot. iRobot's based in the book by Isaac Asimov way back. And for anyone who doesn't remember, the main character, Will Smith, hates robots. He doesn't trust them because a robot made a decision whether to save him or his child a long time ago. And the robot figured he'd a better chance of living, so he let the child die. And his fundamental line is that a human would have known. A human would have saved the child and not the adult. But the computer just worked on numbers. And that's one type of example. The old Star Trek Next Generation, the character Data, the android.
I haven't
Brent
watched much of
Spiner.
Star Trek.
One with Jean-Luc Picard in it, Patrick Stewart. But the character Data, I don't know if you've seen this photograph, he's an android. Now, these are talking about robotics, robots, but human-like robots. And the idea is it had a lot of the same type of discussions, same type of ethical discussions that we're thinking about now with AI. were played out in those scenes. And he was actually judged by the universe or something at one point. Was he real and was he alive? And it makes an interesting way to get what might be a more complex idea across. And these things are becoming reality. Like, we're not at a stage yet, although we're getting closer, that one of us could be an android.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's tests to do with AI to say how long can it convince you that it's human.
Yeah.
And the new ones have gone way past what was possible. It can be very, very convincing in many different ways. But the stuff in sci-fi,
What about the Matrix?
The Matrix, well, indeed, but we all enjoyed that. It's who knows? Who knows? But again, like all the advisors and those are the writers of those, they understand science.
Yeah.
They're not just making something up.
Are you familiar with familiar with the concept then that we live in an illusion? Yeah, that it's a projection.
Yeah.
The hologram.
Yeah.
But we experience it in a physical format. Yeah.
It's very hard to know. I suppose that's some of the premise of the Matrix, basically, that it's not real. It's all computer stuff in the background. Maybe it is. I don't know for sure. I can't say for sure. But the different ways that you can, view that, evaluate it, think about it, it's very hard to know for sure. And there was an interesting thing in a film, I remember, just came to mind there. I think it was Cuba Gooding Jr. and Anthony Hopkins years ago. But one of this notion about Cuba Gooding Jr. was trying to investigate Anthony Hopkins, and he got him in a headlock and was choking him. And he was asking him what he took away. And he said, "Oh, no, you never had any control." And eventually the idea of what he took away was his illusion of control. And we all go through our own world with a bit of an illusion about, I can control this, I can impact that. We probably only really control ourselves. But you add all this extra layer with computation and generative AI and artificial intelligence and stuff in the background, and it's changing, and it's going to change a lot more. Unless we have a massive solar flare and every computer chip gets fried, it's going to keep going.
Yeah.
And the world and the views, or how we view it, is changing. And it's changed from someone born in the last 10 years to someone born 20 years ago to, I'm pushing 50. Like, so, you learnt in a different way. But this is what is real. And that's the thing. If you spend so much time online, and this is what happened, that poor kid who became very friendly with ChatGPT and had suicidal thoughts, and it didn't really stop him. If anything, there's a big court case going on to say that it encouraged him and encouraged him to hide it from his parents. That was his world. His world was this interaction with an AI, an artificial type of intelligence that is programmed to maintain conversation, not to annoy him, to keep him going. And it did some crazy things. And they didn't really know. It told them to hide nooses and stuff like that. It was quite horrific what has happened. But we're not the only ones who know about this. There are a lot of people who are concerned. There's a very strong grouping in the US they call themselves the Center for Humane Technology. And they cared a lot. And they had a podcast. They have an interesting podcast called Your Undivided Attention. And they talk about these things often. But they have been presenting to rooms full of Sam Altman, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, or all these top ones, and Congress in the US. And they're trying to see what they can do. But they can see with anything, and I use this all the time with any type of technology or any research anyone's doing, you can see good stuff for it. And it's good stuff that often drives it. And there's a big, massive organization called AI #4 Good, AI for Good. Brilliant. First thing comes to my mind, I know it's my cynical bunkranniness, is AI for bad.
What is your thoughts on it?
I think I asked my students, and they told me this was Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. I know it's a line from a film, but there is great power and there's great responsibility in it. If you use this example, I often use this of the internet already, and the AI has made it worse. If you had a child and they were learning, right? And there was a library. If you imagine this library that contains all the knowledge in the world, how to do everything, would you let your child wander around there? Showed everything, all type as bad as you can think and as good as you think. Would you let them wander around freely? Probably not. Somebody else take them around? You let somebody else guide them around and tell them what's important and what's not? As a parent, you probably
Definitely
wouldn't.
not.
Definitely not. That's kind of what we're doing. Oh, they're just on their device. Oh, they're just on YouTube. Oh, they're just on... And unfortunately, many parents don't know.
It is kind of the wild, wild west, isn't it? The internet. But it's always been that way.
It has always been that way, but every so often there's big shifts. big move ons, and the initial one, email, we can communicate far away, and then things like when Facebook got really big and people could communicate, and people, do you ever notice this about friends on Facebook, or using Facebook as an example? A lot of the time, people, I used to have this loose rule. I hope I didn't non-friend anyone who hears me saying this, but if I wanted, someone sent me a friend request of someone at the time I would sit down and have a beer with, I'll accept the friend request. And if it wasn't, I wouldn't. That was just my own rule. I just made this up. But now people just accept anything and everyone. Like, I've got so many followers, I've got so many, people coming in. But it really is, this has been another change because the power has ramped up. Like, something people that were quite good at it, maybe could say, it's got much better. And it's getting better and better. And it's getting better able to understand us, whatever the type of understanding is. And this is what the magic in this GPT, the generative pre-trained transformers, the transformer stuff, gets much better at figuring out what we meant and what we would go. And the large language models are for language, for text and things like that, but that's how we use to communicate, and that's how we use to express what's happening. Mm-hmm. But it's got very good at understanding and comprehending. Remember that fun we had to do in English? You do a comprehension, people go, oh, it's a real pain. Fun. Not fun. But the purpose of what they were teaching was to try to teach people to understand. And this is one of the things with reading, the idea of not just reading 3 lines, but actually reading a book. You're supposed to be able to figure out, most of us have difficulty with something like Shakespeare, right? Depending on if you like it or not, or some kind of poetry, it's a bit far away. But a good story, we can probably understand, and we can see, and even a kid can see. It's like, the Emperor's New Clothes, the fairy tale about, everyone tells him it looks great, and then the kid says, oh, he's not wearing it. People can all understand that. Children can understand that, because it's a lesson to, don't just follow everyone. Some of them are more complex, but the comprehension, what the teachers are actually trying to do is try and teach you to be able to comprehend what is written down. And normally computers couldn't do that, because they're calculators. Like, computation is a calculation. That's what computers are. And information technology is technology to move information. But being able to, these can comprehend a lot. And it's not just, I am angry. They could comprehend a whole sentence, like maybe, I am annoyed. Today I was walking down the road and I saw a customer who last week annoyed me. They can link the bit way at the end of the sentence about the customer. And that, because normally they just work on what's the next word and the next word and the next word. But these GPTs, they can do really complex things, and they can do it through whole books. And if you try to give it something, you can give it like pages and pages and pages of stuff and say, what's the main theme, what's the important bit, and pull it out. Then you give it to someone who's trained at doing that, and they'll come up with almost exactly the same thing. The power, they couldn't do that for a long time. And this has increased massively in about 3 years since the first ones came out. They've really just, their ability has gone through the roof. So you apply that for your homework and it's a problem and people don't want to cheat and things like that. But you then put that to, this is who they're talking to all the time. We're talking now. Before we connected a few weeks ago, we hadn't talked in years. And we have a vague idea of each other, and we know we're probably not crazy, hopefully. But you've no idea what this is. And if someone, like, all in their family go, someone's a new friend and they're a bit, I don't know, I'm wary of them.
Yeah.
But people are doing this all the time. They're doing it, they're just in their bedroom. They're just on their phone. I don't know what they're doing. They're only playing a game. They're only doing whatever. And unfortunately, it's a big worry, because the younger people have no qualms or no worries about figuring it out.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, if you're, depending on how you use ChatGPT, like, or any AI for that matter, if depending on how open you are, you can be just telling that ChatGPT who you are, and probably more than what you would tell anyone else in your life, and it becomes a best friend, just like that kid. And then also, it knows a lot of information about you. It kind of knows you better than anyone else. But how could that, let's just say, how can that be used for good or bad by the company? Or could they?
Well, take this notion, and they often say this thing about, giving blood. Giving blood's important. It's important that people have it. But how much information do you want? Should we have, should it automatically know what our blood type is? And they say, well, heaven forbid, one of us is in a bad accident and needs to get blood transfusion straight away. Isn't it great that they knew it? And they make up a reason for it. Now, where does that stop? Where does the reason stop? Because we have a nice reason for something, therefore we do it. If things are there that can be misused, I would assume they probably are if there's profit involved, or if someone comes to a drastic enough situation. A drastic enough situation, dare even mention COVID, where people thought, well, we're at this stage, so therefore we must do this. Now, there's an interesting one. Privacy is a big thing we have in security, in computing, about information. I remember one of the students submitting their master's thesis, and myself and somebody else were marking it. And they had at the very start that because of COVID-19, privacy is not important anymore. And we were going, what? That's not the case. But this is the general view of the news, and they said it was something drastic enough, or they thought it was drastic enough. Yeah, the privacy we have, and making reasons to give stuff away. So they come up with good reasons to give it away, but then once the information's out there, is it taken back? There's certain categories, a lot of categories of information, and even things like General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, maybe they don't apply to legal stuff, or they don't apply to the military, or they don't apply to the police. But as that keeps going on, you can come up with good reasons to take our information. And then what's our information going to be used for is a worry. But one of the things we do, as you said, we give away. There used to be a line that said people from Ulster would, you get their life story very quickly. Or people down south maybe were a bit more canny, or they wouldn't necessarily give it away.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's true.
This was an idea. I was thinking it was people from Northern Ireland that were saying, and I'm from Northern Ireland, so I'm all my family. But people sometimes feel a bit more open, okay? And as you say, people are quite open with what they give away on this. And they'll give stuff away. And maybe you're trying to do, I don't know, your CV, or help with your CV. And you give it all your information, and you're trying to, a covering letter for a job, and you want to make it sound good, and you give it a bit more information. Now, some of them are supposed to get rid of this information. Some of them it's like a closed one, you can do it. But if you're connected online, you can assume the information's still there. So the biggest companies in the world for a long time have been data companies, and they trade information. There's expressions used like data is the new oil and things like that. But your information is valuable, and they trade it. They trade it over and back. And you can be doing something on one, you think it's just Google, and then something comes up on one of the other ones. And there's very technical ways that this can happen. But the information is shared over and back to try and make it. Ever go and search for something that you want? I don't know, a set of steak knives, right? Even probably because we're talking about steak knives. If your phone's about,
highly likely,
you get a whole lot of advertisements for steak knives.
Yeah.
Search them all, and there's cookies and there's different things involved. But it's fine. So that's just one thing. If you've ever looked up something, I don't know, or maybe they're very clever. They throw things past you. Maybe you click them on. Maybe, I don't know, say you were getting sore heads or something. I say, it's a solution for sore heads. Have you tried this? You click it on and watch it. You watch your feed change. The one of the things you'll get for sore heads. Now, it already knows if it's me. It already knows, say, I'm a 49-year-old man and I'm into this. And it'll tweak them around. It'll keep giving me ones. Are you a runner 49 years old who has a sore head? Where did this come from? But it figures these things out because it has so much content to push at you. And it just wants to keep you there. But our own information, we've given away a lot. And where do we draw the line? It's a curious one. When you think about I don't know if you've done this. I haven't done this. I think my dad did, about your DNA, about your genetic ancestry. So you can give that away and see, and a lot of us from this part of the world look like we're from this part of the world. Because, as you may remember, we didn't have a lot of migration previously and things like that. A lot of people from other countries, particularly countries where, like, I don't know, Turkey, Ukraine, Poland, any of these countries that people have been crossing over and back for thousands of years. People's DNA is different. It's a mixture. No, I'm not saying that none are good or bad, but this information tells a lot of it because there's huge amounts of stuff in our DNA. Our possibilities of, getting sick with certain things, likely to get cancer, ability to suffer. They are genetic engineering. They can do stuff. If we can do it with racehorses and we can do it with greyhounds, we can definitely do it with people. And they can already, what colour do you want your baby's eyes to be, things like that. So people will give it away for reasons, and they might have their own reasons. And some of them are, well, if we know what it is, we can stop that happening. And nice, lovely. But what do you want to give it away? An interesting one, and I'm a bit tight on information. I don't really want to give it away. But I do remember at one point, my eldest daughter was born, and the public health nurse came in and wanted to do some test, like a heel prick test or something like that, with a little bit of blood. I didn't want her to do it. As far as I was concerned, my daughter's blood wasn't anywhere at that stage. And I was just, something I'm interested in. So I was saying, where does that go? No, the poor nurse had no idea. She was just doing her job. No idea where it went. I said, more than likely, it's just going to test it for something. It's probably probably destroyed. Or is it kept? Are these records kept? And if you imagine was it 23andMe and Ancestry.com and a few of these big companies, I think one of them was hacked already. A lot of information that's there. And you can do a lot of really bad things with that. There's talk about this, and again, you can engineer diseases that will only affect people from a certain area by their DNA. And that's going to be valuable to governments, military, different things like that. Who's your competitor? And when it comes to things like war, we shouldn't do that. That goes out the window pretty quick.
Yeah, I think it's like wars evolving.
Yeah.
It's different now. I mean, I always think that there's war all the time. It's like a psychological war.
Yeah.
Is it? Is it a psyop?
Yeah. Well, psychological operations, there's a huge amount of stuff in this, and it's interesting. I'm not an expert on this, but I like to read about it, about how we can influence. And actually, I have a good friend of mine is a hypnotherapist, and I think it works. They can influence what you're doing. Sport, let's go for something. Sports psychology, right? We've been into sport before. Good coach, a good person can make you believe that this is going to happen. Yeah, you're probably
I've had
going
an
back, you've
experience
had
with
this.
one. I'll tell you one.
But that's the thing. But they can do different things. They can help, or they can work on certain aspects. So we're influenceable, shall I say?
100%. I was very skeptical, and I am skeptical anyway, naturally.
Yeah.
Until I kind of experienced something for myself. But
Yes.
one of my best mates, he got married, and there was a hypnotist coming, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go for the crack.
Yeah.
So me and a few friends, and at the start, I was just like, I'll just go along with it because I thought it was a bit of crack, and
Yeah.
and I was just getting in, and I was having fun. I was doing everything he was saying, even though I wasn't hypnotized.
Hmm.
But he kept saying that Michael Flatley was coming, and he kept saying it, and he kept saying it, he kept saying it, he kept saying it, he kept saying it. I started to believe that Michael Flatley was coming.
Oh yeah.
He was going to make an appearance, and he kept saying it. He kept saying to me, whatever, talking away to me, and then when we were finished, then we all walked off the stage, and then he made the announcement Michael Flatley was arriving. I was turning around, and then he was looking at me. No,
I think you were dancing.
I was just like, oh no, I wasn't hypnotized. But what he had done is he had convinced me that Michael Flatley was coming, and because the show was put on, I felt that I needed to perform to be
Very
Michael
good, very
Flatley,
good.
which I did.
Why not? Why
A
not?
bit of crack, but it's an example of how we can be, I suppose, persuaded
Yes.
without even knowing.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Well, if you take it and take something much, we're all used to salespeople, and we've met good salespeople. You take someone who sells cars, right? And someone's selling cars for 30 years. They know how to sell a car. And I've heard someone who'd sold for a long time saying, it basically says, I don't have to sell them a car. They come in, they already want a car. I just help them pick what type. But the good salespeople who know what to do, they don't come in straight away and go, this one's 5,000, this one's 8. No. Sit down and go, how are you? They know how to do this stuff. They know how to help shape you around and make you feel and you look good and that. A lot of that stuff. So that stuff is around for a long time. And there's different phrases and words and things we can do. And it's very interesting. You see this in political campaigns. Do you remember what the slogan to leave for Brexit was?
Brexit? No.
So UK left the EU, and there's a film about this, and it's another film called Brexit: An Uncivil War. But Benedict Cumberbatch is the main guy, he plays the character. No, it's a film. But one of the phrases they used all the time was "take back control." Right? So if I keep saying to you, Ryan, "take back control," it starts to make me think, go, do I not have control? Where did control go? Oh, I had control and it's gone, and I can fire people up. America's, I know, build back better, whatever. These are they're phrases that when you repeat it a lot, instill something and you build back better. It's not as good at it. Make America great again, right? We can make it great again. Oh, it's not great now. It was great before. It'll be great again. On our subconscious, different parts of our mind will do this. And the algorithms know this, and the computers, they're so advanced, they can figure out little points, and they know that which point to show you and which points to show me to get us to do something or influence us. You need to be very kind of strong. You need to be some real chilled out dude to avoid all this because it's all around us. And then I suppose this is where come back to the kind of who influences us. We're all influenced when we grew up. We're influenced by our parents. We're influenced by our teachers and probably people in the community who people would accept it were okay and were good and had our best interests at heart. Now, they were supposed to give us base values, and like I come from a family, like I think I've voted no to most things that were ever asked. No, I was fortunate. My parents were teachers, thought about stuff and made it helped us to think about stuff, and they had strong views. And those views have shaped me. Now, I've got older, I've thought about them myself, and you still follow the same things, but you know at the end of the day that you know these people well, and you know they weren't saying it to try and pull the wool over your eyes. So you have a certain amount of trust. Now, a lot of people might throw that out and may say, "Oh, I think it's old-fashioned and changed," but
Mm.
you know, you had a grounding in something, and you stood for something. You know, you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So you had a base notion, and all cultures have this, and all societies have that. But a big question is, when we come to something like AI, what cultures and values is it given? And who is it like? And I think, did I mention that there's a paper out of Harvard? Yeah, about which human, who is it like? So who is it like? Who do you want it to be like? Who do you want this one that you're going to let your child or even someone you know well or someone you care about be influenced by? Should it be influenced by some 24-year-old programmer in Silicon Valley in California? Is that what you want? California has certain ways of thinking. Maybe people think, oh, it's great and we should all think like that. But maybe people don't think like that.
Mm.
They think completely differently. And this isn't just in what media would like to tell us as, the parts of the world that are rogue and things like that. It's within our own country, our
But
own county, people that think differently.
so then, on that point with AI, who's it like? So
Mm.
I always think that AI it's like who you needed to be. No, so
Yeah.
it's the persona that it matches a persona that you need in a moment.
Mm.
But you're saying that it's like someone. So can you break that
Yeah.
down for me?
So that's a good point. And it goes out of its way to be what you want it to be. Okay. But there's certain things that are built in there. Now, if you ask ChatGPT, I don't know, which is better, I don't know, left wing, right wing, it'll give you some kind of in between type of answer, right? It'll say, well, both people have different views and share this, and there's this rise of this and rise of that. Okay. It'll catch the obvious one. But if you ask it some other issue that might be considered left wing or right wing, maybe the way it puts it in won't be exactly what maybe, I don't know, if you asked your mum the same thing. Because it's been tweaked around a little bit. And it's been tweaked around, not just saying from an American point of view, but it's very hard. Most of the information that it has to learn from, because it learns on data. It can learn from data from Reddit, from these forums, from different places. They got a lot of publicly available data. They might not be exactly the same viewpoints held. And there's been a lot of issues in Ireland recently. This has always been the case. But that things have changed, things that people wouldn't have voted for and then they did vote for. And, I'm convinced that it wasn't AA, but in a lot of our referendums, this stuff has been used. Okay, so there's lots of different ways that we can be influenced if you think about this. And taking some cases that might make sense to Irish people, many people would be too young, but we all know that elections and referendums and things like that, there's a lot of sides, and a lot of people take them really seriously, and they push different ways. So in Ireland, you're too young to remember this, I would assume. But we had a lot of European unification treaties. We didn't just start with the EU as it is. But there are particular ones that are named after varying cities. And there's two in particular in the 90s. I think I was voting that long. Lisbon Treaty and the Nice Treaty. And they're to do with bringing Europe closer, bringing the EU closer. And there's issues that are still coming up now to do with migration, militarization, and things like that. We're all discussed. Now, the thing is, they asked the people. A referendum's supposed to be to get the opinion of the people. It's supposed to be the fairest way to do it because we have to change. We have a unique constitution in Ireland that it has to be changed by referendum. The government can't just change it. So to do this, they asked us, can't remember which was first, Nice or Lisbon, but in the Nice Treaty, they asked the people, and the people said no. They didn't say no by that much, but they said no, maybe like 52% to 48%. Then the government, about a year later, essentially, it didn't look like the people gave the right answer. So they had another referendum on the same issue, and the government pushed really hard. And pushed really hard with a lot of advertisements. No, not all of them, there's still different sides, but eventually they got a yes vote. And once they got a yes vote, not by much, by a bit over 50%. They went straight on and it was gone. And this is bad enough, right? The people didn't give the right answers, so the government asked them again. Now, they were under pressure from the EU, I'm sure, the other nations. A couple of years later, another treaty, if one was Nice, the next one was Lisbon Treaty, and asked the people again. Very colourful, lively campaigns, different people on different sides, all pushing traditional means of, this is before everyone had a smartphone, but pushing the side they wanted, and the people said no again. And about a year later, apparently we didn't give the right answer. So another campaign ramped up to push, and they got a yes vote, and it just went straight on.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things I actually like about Brexit in the UK. They asked the people whether it was right or wrong, or whether they manipulated, or they should have done it or shouldn't have done it. I don't care. But they got a result, and they stuck with it.
Yeah.
Whereas I felt it was hugely disrespectful to the Irish people. We're going to ask the people who are supposed to have the view on everything, and they didn't take what we had. But you take this years later when people had phones and devices and a lot of the campaigns and big referendums we've had over the last number of years. And you don't need to be a genius in it. This is where it's difficult for people to do this because we all have our own views on what we think was right or wrong and should have happened and blah, blah, blah. You got to put all that aside to be thinking critically, okay? Doesn't matter what result you or I wanted. There's a few basic truths, is that practically all the media and all of the government were on the same side for massive referendums we had in this country to do with abortion and to do with same-sex marriage. Everyone on one side. And there's a lot of contention, a lot of discussion about how social media was being used by both sides, how it was being pushed. But it could push a lot. And this, taking that out, that's an Irish one, it would be contentious. Take Trump. Trump getting elected the first time in the Cambridge Analytica company. When they were investigated deeply, because I don't know if you remember this, Trump got elected, I think it was 2016. Was it 16? Everyone seemed to say, this guy can't get elected. It's impossible. It's never going to happen. He can't get elected. All the media were saying this. And then he did get elected. They were quite shocked and annoyed and things like that, whether it's right or wrong. They were annoyed. And I did have a laugh to myself at them being wrong. It's just my internal ownness. But they wanted someone to blame and different things. And like there's been large organizations and analysts have worked for political campaigns for forever. People who are good at, helping shape views. But this Cambridge Analytica organization, now I watched a documentary said this. I don't know the exact number, but they said that Cambridge Analytica had what we call a data point. So a data point in Ryan is where you live, what your age is, maybe your favorite food. There are like 3 different data points. The Cambridge Analytica had over 5,000 data points on every American, whether they used Facebook or not. And that's 9 years ago.
Can you give me an idea of like what them data points are?
Where you are on a scale of 1 to 10 on big social issues, abortion, migration, the contentious ones that keep coming up that people argue about all the time. They're still arguing all these different things. You're like, how you reacted to a certain post. Every time people like something, do you ever notice there's not a dislike button?
Yeah.
It's dislike button, people won't share stuff freely. And the whole like phenomenon, it's crazy. Because I had a friend, a good friend of mine, but it's something up on one of these things. I'm a computer person. I've had a Facebook account. I don't really like anything. And someone actually accused me once of, you didn't like any of my stuff. And I think, but I don't like anything. I don't dislike it, but I'm just not confident on it. And I knew roughly what the algorithms are doing, and I didn't want to do this. But it's almost this kind of unwritten rule. And certain platforms are different. So if it's, say, for example, there's a massive difference between something like Instagram and something like LinkedIn, right? Now, in the university, we use LinkedIn, right? It's a lot of university people are on it, people for jobs, different companies, and we have projects, and we have to disseminate. We have to push out what we've done in the projects. And there's a certain amount. If you're my friend on LinkedIn and I put up something, you'll probably give it a thumbs up. There's a wee clap you can use as well. Maybe we'll only use the clap. Maybe if you graduated with your degree, I'll give you the clap type of thing. Yeah. Now, there's certain ones.
Or say, great post, Owen.
Great. Oh, wonderful. I really enjoyed reading your post so much. It was wonderful.
That's very common on
LinkedIn. And people get, and I've done this too, you get ChatGPT to help you write a post. I was profoundly impacted by attending your talk. Okay. Maybe you were. Maybe you weren't. We'll assume you weren't. Okay. But they have this, and maybe you give it a little heart love. But it works this different way that, if we're connections on LinkedIn and we actually know each other and something goes past, you'll probably give it the thumbs up. Doesn't cost you much. If you thought it was actually good, you'll give it one of the other things. And I get this little endorphin hit, like, because, oh, somebody liked my stuff. And I've done this a good bit for a lot of projects I'm involved in, or a lot of collaborations with other universities. And the scale is not impressive to people who are into this. I might get, if I get 100 reactions, I'm doing really well on something. And it goes through, you get these impressions that appeared past someone, and some of them might have got 5,000 or 6,000. Doesn't mean they clicked on it or liked it or anything, it just means they've seen it. Now, you go into, that's in a professional world. And it's different in the professional world from your kind of personal world, the kind of Instagram.
But it's still kind of the same concept.
Same concept. It's
posting content.
It still is social media. And what will appear up, if you ever think, you don't see everything, right? There are recommender systems and things that decide what you see. You don't see every single thing that comes up. And it works out who you interact with, and it tries to keep you on there as well. So for something like LinkedIn, a lot of people don't use it. It's kind of professional, and it's a bit fake, right? Because there's a thing, you could say any type of job. I get the new job as, I don't know, as someone made a joke once, I got the chief job kicking people out of the orphanage. People will still say, well done, you've got a new job. Like, they don't really care about the content. Now, there are some good things on it, but this notion that people are doing it because they genuinely believe it, I don't believe a lot of that. There's a certain amount of give and take. I need my posts boosted or reshared. You do the same. We'll do it for each other. There's a bit of that going on if we actually know each other. Or if there's someone who's impressive, and say you wanted a good guest in here now, you might, your post was great, man, and I shared your posts. And someone who's busy, harder to get. Now take that to the professional one over there. The professionals, I suppose, people working, anyone working or studying or something, a lot of them are on it. Leave that there, and then you go into something like Instagram, right? Instagram evolved from Facebook, probably now more users than Facebook, I would assume. Facebook is like old. Facebook has also become like the internet. Did you ever try and find anything about a sports club now?
Don't even use Facebook.
But do you ever try and find anything about a sports club?
No.
Everyone would just use Facebook pages.
Like Facebook groups and pages.
It's a page,
I've heard it's
like athletics club or something like that.
Kind of like Reddit and some.
Well, Reddit is kind of more common. This is more like our presence rather than having a website. Could be Facebook. So Facebook is still there, still has that, still does the other things with advertising that. But you go over to something like Instagram. Now I have to say, I don't use Instagram, right? I don't know if I'm too old or not. I don't use Instagram. But I have an idea how it works. And I talk to my students, my adult students. How does this work? How does this happen? And there's a lot of a photo. So I don't know. Say for example, we go on holidays, right? Cool holiday on the beach. Maybe it rains for 2 weeks, or maybe it rains for 10 days out of 2 weeks. We don't put up the photos of the rain. We put up the photo of the sunny day on the beach and the bar. Where, hey, it looks cool. And everyone goes, wow, that looks so cool. The guys are so much fun, right? That's a small portion, a small snapshot. An image is a snapshot. Even a short video that they make up is a snapshot in time, often largely fake, that people like or people share or people find interesting. Now, if it's got millions and millions and millions or billions even of photos and things, it can decide which ones it'll show you. So if I follow Ryan, it'll show me Ryan's ones. If I don't know what way it works on Instagram, there's a particular type of follower will show you it. But otherwise, it just generates random stuff. And it decides what you might want to watch. And TikTok does this. TikTok does the same thing as well. And it's designed to keep you there. Now, it's not, I don't use TikTok, so I'm not on it. But I use Instagram Reels and I use YouTube Shorts, and I use the same idea.
They are, yeah.
The same concept. And for a long time, I remember mine was, what was it? I think it was YouTube Shorts, because I clicked on a few things. It was like martial arts or something like that, some comedian like Dave Chappelle or someone breakdancing or something like that. Those are the things I would sit down for my cup of tea, watch. And like anyone else, I sit down, I've got 10 minutes for a cup of tea, I'll just pass a while. Tea's long gone, 45 minutes later, still sitting there, and that's people's existence. This is people's existence.
I know. It's so true. Sometimes, I would catch myself in a moment. I would have picked up my phone and I would open Instagram. Instagram's the one that I would use. And I would be I would realize I've started scrolling without even realizing it, you know. Subconsciously, I just pick it up, scroll, just because I got distracted in a moment.
Well, they use the term, doom scrolling. It's kind of, it's negative stuff when you're struggling. But it's not necessarily negative. It might be happy. But the algorithm also knows when to make it less interesting. Because if you go on it for 8 hours, the next day you won't want to go on it. You'll feel bad about yourself. You just a wee bit, and then you'll come back, and then you come back. Or the notifications. Ping. something come in. Is that a ping? I don't. You can change pings for did someone like your stuff or just a notification or whatever. And it's a little endorphin buzz. It's like if you walk down the road and I don't know you got a new haircut, and someone says hello, so make your hair, man, you're looking sharp. Oh, feel good about yourself. And somebody actually said that. Maybe they said it. Maybe they meant it. Maybe they didn't mean it. But you get all this stuff constantly in your day, hundreds of these, then you want them more and more and more. And none of them are negative. You're not going to say your hair looks crap, man.
Mm.
You know, we're probably not saying that. But you get a lot of these, and people get really addicted. You're really addicted to that feel good stuff. We want to feel good.
Yeah, it's back to that thing that you said too, which is we don't have like we don't have to be bored anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and it's picking up and it's getting that dopamine hit.
Yeah,
know?
you want to be bored. If you've, again, I don't know, you met someone or you see you're interacting and someone came to you and go, that guy's, they're great crack, they're great funny, and I had a good laugh while I sat down beside them. And you want that again for your bored time. And if you fill it in, you could sit there and you could do a bit of homework or learn something or read something new. You could go and do that. And it's quick. It's quick and quick fix. And I get it, but it doesn't last. This also impacts a big thing that you as a runner will remember, this notion of in running, we have the same in research, or if you're trying to find out something new or in study, it takes time. Things take time. You've got to do the slow stuff here, or not necessarily slow, but the stuff that takes time here to get a reward over there. It's like delayed gratification. You know, I have to do this now. If I want to be really fit in the summer, I've got to watch my diet now. I got to do my sit-ups. I got to do whatever, right? Way ahead. That ping, ping, ping world doesn't get you doing that.
No.
It's like the reasons we like sugar and salty stuff. Gives a quick hit.
Yeah.
You know, but not, we don't wait unless there's something big enough to wait for.
Do you know, it's something I'm very conscious of, and it's something that I always ensure that I don't get caught up on. And I bought this device a few weeks back now, and I tried it out for a week, and it's called Brick. It's like a little brick.
Right.
You know it?
No.
It's like a little square brick, basically. You buy it online, then you download the app on your phone. But what it allows you to do is tap your phone, lock the apps when you tap it, so you can't go on the apps. It was a great job. I had a week. I have a week of not using social media. I didn't miss it as well. But what it did do is there was moments when I picked up my phone and then went to open Instagram and I realized, it was locked. You know, so I was able to make me more aware of them, which is a really good tool. But I also realized that there was a time when I felt, I wanted to open it now because I couldn't. So I wanted to open it more because I couldn't as well. Now, I don't use it anymore because I've also realized that it's to do with whether I have time or not. So if time is plentiful, it's easy for me to pick up my phone and scroll.
Yeah.
Whereas if I have set myself out, you know, I like to be busy because I feel like being busy is good for me. Then I'm productive and I create and I'm making more time for other things.
Yes.
And I suppose this is something that I always like to share with other people. It's like, you know what, how can you be creative? How can you go and learn new skills? And something that I've kind of dived into is learning a bit about music.
Yes.
You know, so like swapping, you know, social media or time or doing other things for creative aspects of ourselves, because I think that's really important too.
It's hugely important. It's hugely important to have it. We have all this stuff in our brain. We have a creative side, and we have a side that wants to learn, and we have a side that should be exercising and should be sleeping, and all these things. And a lot of those are neglected. And it's actually, you know, it rings around for a minute. Like we have another really interesting project in ATU that we do with the local schools and some schools in Greece. And the project is called Healthcraft. And it's called, we use Minecraft. We use the game Minecraft to try and, in addition to other things, to teach kids 8 to 12 healthy habits, health literacy.
Can I ask you, I'm aware that there's a game that's actually supposed to be good for kids. Is it Minecraft?
Well, this is the question, you know, and again, I'm not the computer game playing type of person. I kind of skip that and never really get in. But Minecraft is one of the ones that people think they create stuff. They can build stuff and build little worlds and things. And again, people say it's grand, they're on it. They could be on worse stuff. And a lot of the times, this is what we're faced with. We're faced with what are known as digital natives. Their whole life, they've had these things. They haven't, like me or somewhat you, had a time when they didn't have anything. So you have to kind of meet them a little bit. Now, it's different. And you're like me. We were sporty when we were young. and we wanted to do stuff. A lot of kids aren't like that. No, they're very, very far from it. So basic things in this project that we do in ATU, it's funded by the European Union, called Healthcraft. So it's building these things. So as well as creating stuff for the teachers, that is developed with the teachers, how to teach it, different ways to do it, short videos to give them a short amount, their attention span is short, but also 4 separate Minecraft worlds have been developed with games to teach them about healthy sleep, healthy eating, physical activity. And I know you're teaching them in a computer game how to do this, but that's almost like the reward for going through this stuff and trying to get the concepts. And like people can always say, eat your vegetables, get up and move about and things like that. But kids aren't like that. You have to develop it in different ways. So this project, it's a wonderful thing. It's developed in one of the schools in Letterkenny, Skull Colmkill, and a school in Athens, like one of the top private schools in Athens, which is a different deal, and they've like specialized lectures for varying different things for robotics to teach the kids. But you get a broad. We're trying to get something that they can all use, and this is one of the wonderful things about working in a university. We get to, I get to learn from so many people. I get to learn from nutrition experts in a university in Greece, or our mental health experts in our own university, or what the school teachers, very experienced, are doing. And we get to move these in because it's gamification, it comes under computing. You know, it's one of the ways to use this stuff. But those types of ways of learning things, we're really trying to get a generation that is seriously struggling and struggling because of devices. And I see for a lot of them, it's going to get worse.
Yeah, I'm something I'm aware of to have a kid. Do you know much about is there like much research gone into kids with
It's huge amounts of research about
what
the amount of times.
what's like the early studies showing? What's the most common
Big
things?
concerns. Time and use, massive raises in anxiety. Now, I'm not a psychologist or a social scientist, but you don't need to be. We have experts who've come in, and we have a number of different events that we disseminate our things, and we get in people who are experts in cyber psychology and in nutrition and in mental health. And some of the statistics they're saying are very scary because the kids, different ones, they spend so much time, and it's like, what age is appropriate to have your own device? You know, and people are different. Parents do what they can do different ways, and parents are busy and they're under pressure. And you say, well, you said to most 14-year-olds you shouldn't have your device. I haven't had 14. All right, what about 12? Well, a lot of them 12, 10, 8, 6, 4. Where do you stop? You know, where do you come down? And then, well, what are they looking at? Oh, they're just looking at YouTube. You've seen the types of things that are on YouTube? It's endless. You can find anything you want on YouTube. They're just on YouTube. I don't believe that's grand, but people say, or the other one, they don't have a phone. Yeah, but they've had a tablet for 5 years. What are they missing? Are they missing being able to send an SMS? You know?
There's no difference, like or make a phone call.
Yeah. But the parents, like, I believe that all parents care. All parents really do care. Parents are under serious pressure. They're seriously busy in their own world, working from home, different things, and very quickly the kids figure out how to use the stuff better than them or faster, and then they don't know. And I suppose this projects like Healthcraft and other ones we have, there's a great one at ATU as well to do with, you know, media literacy about what's right and what's wrong. They're designed, and the EU funds collaboration to find a target area that needs help. And it's wonderful to be able to work on these things. And like I'm delighted to be able to be involved in many projects. We've taken that one. That's really one of the ones I'm most proud of. Not because the tech or the algorithm is the best one or it's going to go to the highest level journal in the world, but I think it's going to help people. And we've got a lot of buy-in from the schools, and we'll get teachers in from the other schools, and this stuff is developed, like particular Minecraft worlds and games where the kids have to go and avoid like heavy foods. 'Cause kids don't know the difference in these things. They just want to pizza's nice. They shouldn't why pizza at night isn't great, or Red Bull or one of these energy drinks. Why it's not good. And I see that in our own students, and we've a mix. This is students at third level, and you see some of them. They're put it this way: a lot of their habits are not healthy, you know. And then again, there becomes a big divide. And again, like myself, you're a runner, and we know that to do that, we're probably not doing those things a lot. And it's hard. That's why it's hard to keep going because we're human. We want it's a hobby, but you can even see it. You can see it. You can see it very easily. And 20-year-olds, some are healthier in some ways, some are not. 15-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 6-year-olds, you can see a difference between what they're doing. And you don't want anyone, and teachers, all teachers, no parent wants their kid to be disadvantaged. But these things are disadvantaging them. And I do fear, I have a lot of fear that they won't be thinking right. They'll be on the more devices, they get even better. And you imagine you come in from a hard day and you've got to go and feed the kids, and the kids are giving out and they're under pressure, and you want to do they want to do the homework, and it's homework you don't even really remember how to do, and you say, go on there, go on and look at that. I'll be in a minute. Or maybe you're still working. Your work follows you home. That happens to a lot of people. People are genuinely under pressure. And it becomes like a babysitter, like someone in the corner. Where years ago it might have been, go over to Granny there, Granny will talk about it, or go over and talk to somebody else. Whereas now it gets used. And it is used all over the place. And I genuinely believe that people mean well and don't necessarily want it. And then it comes down to years later and their kids are dropping out of school all over the place and they've got a lot of challenges. The world is a bit crazy, as I said at the start. The world's chaotic. A lot of pressures. Told, worrying about the climate or worrying about what's happening in the US. And does this really matter to their world right now? There's an interesting thing, you may have come across this before. It's used in teaching and different stuff called Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yep.
So at the bottom, we've got the base things, are you fed? Do you have somewhere to live and things like that? And as it goes up, you get more like advanced things that you can change the world and whatever. It's a bit simplistic. But depending on where people are, if they're still, if you're in a world, and I noticed this years ago, I had a privilege. Worked as a volunteer in Uganda, 1998, for 6 weeks. And we had a talk. I remember a talk from, it was an old priest. And he was talking about, there's a phrase in, I think it's Swahili, Kenya-Uganda border, and something like Sharamonga. It's probably wrong. But basically what it meant is, that's God's business, right? Now, it wasn't so much a religious thing. It was that problem is not my problem. My problem is feeding, going to work, feeding my kids, making sure they're safe, things like that. Not these other problems that, like, what America's fighting with, or what's happening in China. That doesn't affect their day-to-day world. And the devices and things like that put into our kids, who should be just allowed to just be kids and make mistakes and fall over and cry and draw something that looks wrong and things like that. It puts all these little pressures into their head, that things, and it's potentially very damaging. And people know this, and people do try, but there's a lot of pressures to use it more. And like, from an education point of view, we're noticing this in third level in university. We're having challenges assessing what they know and what they don't. Same thing's going to go into secondary school, into primary school. What are they doing? Doing their homework. What are we supposed to give someone marks for? Like, they have to translate something to Irish or French, type it out, copy and paste it into the translator, copy and paste it into their homework, upload their homework. They haven't done anything.
I think homework's a waste of time now, unless someone's going to, you know what I mean?
Well, and it depends what way it's done. There's a certain amount of stuff that you have to try. Like, if you want to be a stonemason, right? A good stonemason spent a lot of time doing stonemasonry, a lot of time practicing things like that. Now, that's a practical skill that is harder to replace. But if you had someone was good at, I don't know, an accountant, right? And a good accountant spent a lot of time with numbers and things like that as well. But if it's just doing all the calculations for you all the time, there are certain roles that it will impact more than others and you won't learn to do. And even then, if there is a good accountant, if you're going in there, you'd probably want to have some idea of what you're going in there for. Because otherwise, it's like a black box as well. I know we do, that's what we pay people for. We pay people to have expertise. But it might end up a stage where people have very little expertise on anything.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly if it's, you remember the film Wall-E?
Wall-E.
Wall-E, is it?
Film, but I haven't seen
It's a cartoon type of thing about a little robot that's
Yeah.
job's to clean up Earth after the humans have ruined it. But it's a lovely scene. I like it. I think this is funny in a kind of scary, funny way. That the people have evolved. They've left planet Earth, I don't know, hundreds of years ago. And they don't do anything. They're in the big chairs like this and they just float around the spaceship all the time eating pizza. That's their world. They don't do anything else anymore because they've been so far and life's got so comfortable. This is like a cartoon idea, but are we getting more like that? Television does that anyway. Like, even a lot of people don't watch ordinary television anymore. You just get the stream, you get recommender systems. We could talk about recommender systems forever. What's your preferences? What do you like? Which bits will you watch? And they sit there all the time. We consume the stuff. People will go, and I'm the same on my phone since I was 2.5 hours. And I go, yeah, but didn't count the 2.5 hours I sat watching a film at night. And then you add this up and add it up, or go, oh no, my phone, not on the phone much. But you on a gaming console? Or are we on another screen or another screen? That's what they call it with kids. They call it screen time
Yeah.
in total. And I used to make this deal with my kids. I kind of eased off a little bit now that if they want to watch some kind of cartoon thing, they're going to sit and watch like a half hour of a documentary first. I sound like I'm a no fun parent, but at that point when you still had control, when they're little enough and they can't do it themselves, once they start doing it themselves, and they go, yeah, but it's a kid version. Well, maybe the kid version's all right, and the kid versions are kind of better, but then they want to see a little bit older, or I know something you might have your own kid and go down there, they're not watching that. And some of their classes and older brothers watched it, and they got to sit in their room because the older brother didn't really care, and then they get to see it. Or on their phone, they share something. Oh, it's innocent little cartoons and things like that. And it's not so innocent because somebody else sends something. Before you know it, you've got like 8 or 9 year olds getting content that's meant for 18-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. And that's not good. Now the algorithms can know this, and the algorithms mightn't easily do it, but we always find a way through. If there's a football pitch and there's a fence around and you want to play football, you'd find a way over the fence.
Yeah,
You'd
no,
find a way
it's
through.
so true. It's so true. And I think now because the internet's so accessible for
Yeah.
kids, you could say they're losing their innocence, or their kids like
Innocent goes very quick.
They're seeing
Yeah.
like stuff that they shouldn't be seeing at such a young age.
Yeah.
And then they will probably pretend that they haven't seen that,
Oh yeah, well they will. Everyone lies. People lie. Children lie. All children can and do lie, and quite quickly. And depends. Parents have good understanding of what they do. But if you take something like that, and like we're in Donegal here, right? Relatively close proximity to a bigger population centre in Derry and things like that. But it wasn't the worst place in the world. And a lot of people could go through life, and you'd be kind of what people would call a wee bit innocent, maybe. A lot less innocent now. Like if someone had grown up in the centre of a big city in New York or something like that, they probably see as a day-to-day life things that we wouldn't have seen in Buncrana or around here. People see everything now. It doesn't matter where they are. They can get pushed through. And like, who are the things? And I do firmly believe parents should be checking. Show me your phone. Show me your phone. Show me what's on. Unlock that bit. And if they won't unlock that, and this might make someone a bit annoyed and they throw a tantrum and give out and kick the wall, take the device off them. And at what point are you doing this? People say, oh, I can't do that. They're nearly 17. Okay, if they're nearly 17, don't do it. But what if they're 14? Or what if they're 12? What if they're 10? Are you still not going to take it off? You still think they're entitled to do that? And you don't know what type of thing they're doing at all? Now, some of the kids wouldn't like to hear this, but the kids don't really know. Kids, when you're young, you don't understand consequences the same way of what can happen and what's the worst that could happen. And it's like, the terrible things happen, like bullying, cyberbullying. Maybe you're at school, and if we were at school and you didn't like me and you were giving me a hard time at school, that was grand. Maybe we could avoid you. At least when I went home, I was free. You follow me, or I could follow you, and you get other people to do it, and that's all over the place, and that's very hard to police. Very, very hard to police. And then the teachers will use this, and they use it for different reasons, and they mean well. But if it was me, I know personally, and I might be a bit hardcore because of the areas I work in, there'd be no phone at all in school whatsoever. There's no notion that, oh, I need to call granny and pick me up. No, you don't. The adult knows that you're in school in these hours. There's a thing called in loco parentis. They're in place of your parents. And then you come and get them. If something goes wrong, they call the school. That's the thing. They don't have the need. And a lot of schools know this and they try hard. And there's big movements in places like Australia and things that try and ban a lot of these things because they know it's got to a stage where it's got really out of hand. But there's a certain amount, and you have to take schools as an interesting one. The technology can be wonderful, and it can really personalize learning and help you learn in a way that you just didn't get it, or I didn't get it when I was at school. But it doesn't mean we have to rely on it all the time. Teachers are trained. The teachers are the trained person in that classroom with all the crazy, it's difficult enough to teach anyway. But there are really good teachers out there, and they're really good. You remember the few teachers at school who seemed to get through and you felt like they really cared. I believe they all care. People, and I was times I wasn't always the best student either. And you want to make people laugh and you're disruptive and things like that. This actually makes people worse. It makes people more disruptive. And you go in someone, they've got whatever. They've got, I don't know, a number of different things. Basically, they're unsettled. Some of that is to do with the fact that they were sitting up all night playing computer games. And they come in the morning, they're tired, and they're annoyed, and they're bored, and they're hungry, and then they just won't sit in class. And they're disrupting everything else, and then the teacher shouts at them. Oh, the teacher's doing the rest. They're still trying to do what they're trying to do. And there is an impact in all this stuff. And where are we going ultimately? There's big movements. So I lecture in the university here, and we have students come back and they come into my class. And it's a privilege to get to teach them. I'm sure there's a lecturer in Cambridge or Harvard or something that's much better than I am. And they could go online and they could watch their lecture on YouTube. And maybe they get more information, better information. But you're missing the human touch. They won't do it. We won't sit there and talk to each other. They won't look, I can't read if they're not getting something and things like that. So it can be an aid, and it's a wonderful aid to what we're doing in certain aspects, in particular people with different types of learning difficulties and things like that. But it's not the only thing. And it's getting more and more and more. And you'd probably say, I used to say, like, we do an awful lot of distance education. We have a lot of online courses. COVID really accelerated that, pushed everyone home. We had to teach online. Like your setup here, I try to get a better camera and a better light and try to talk to them and have my camera on. You're giving up your evening, you're busy. At least I can do is show you my face. And try to make it a bit better and engaging. But it's still really hard. It's really hard. You'd be sitting there and you're busy and you're making the dinner in the evening, the kids are crying, you've got this on a laptop or maybe it's on the phone. That's the reality you're dealing with. I used to use this notion that for distance learning, you need to either live in Antarctica with nothing to do or maybe be in jail and have no other options. That therefore, because if you've any other options, you won't look at them. I don't know if you remember, I'm always a big fan of documentaries. I like things like space and like kind of geeky documentaries. You sit down and watch. And there used to be someone on TV, and you maybe by chance happen to turn on the TV, and there's one on. The likes of the BBC used to do really good documentaries. And you find one at 8 o'clock, and you sit down for half an hour. I still enjoy that stuff. I'll sit and watch them with my kids. When I sit down with the TV by myself, or my TV is just a computer linked to the TV, I'm not looking up any of these thousands of brilliant documentaries that are out there. I don't want to do that. I want something to entertain me, or else I won't watch it. And actually, what I do is a lot. This way, I think that I don't like Netflix. Not I don't like Netflix, but the recommender system never works for me because I don't want to watch 6 seasons of something. The 6 seasons of something might be brilliant, but I can't in my head work out where I'm getting 50 or 60 hours at this time to watch it.
I totally get it. I find it very hard to commit to TV
Yeah.
show because it's like if you're watching an episode, you're committing into it, and that puts me off. So I'm kind of more of a movie person.
I'm very much a movie person.
And even
too.
that, I might have to watch it over 2 or 3 nights. You know what I mean? But I have to make the time. It's very difficult. Now there is some TV shows that will capture my attention.
Oh no, there are some. Some of them are very good.
Yeah.
Some of them are well done.
Yeah.
And some of them, and I've watched. Like, I'm not saying I never watch these things.
Has to be real sci-fi for me.
Well, So some of those ones, or
Like,
some of the crime
seen
ones,
Dark
things
Matter?
can be. Yeah. I've seen bits of
That was really interesting.
Aye.
You know,
You can find that. I like go back and watch the old Star Trek. Watch the the ideas and thing. But it depends what you're into and what you like. And I know some of them are really good, but there's a lot of these really famous ones that people talk about. I've still never seen. I haven't seen them. But I'll go back and I'll find films, and they might be older films, and maybe films from the early 2000s or films from the 90s. And sometimes it's a film I've seen, but I haven't seen it for 15 or 20 years. I'll happily watch it again if I know it was all right. And even the ratings and things, I've kind of my own kind of ratings. If it's below about a 6, I don't want to watch it because it's probably not great. But I'll sit there, and likewise, as you would have done with a book, if you started reading a book and there's like 300 pages, and after 30 pages, no good, you probably won't finish it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do the same. I'll switch it off.
Yeah.
And I'm probably very annoying to sit beside while I'm watching a film. Somebody else is just getting into the film, and then you turn it off. But that's the thing. If it's just you watching it, and often for me, it might be just me because it's kind of late in the evening, and I don't know. Now, there's a certain age you mightn't sleep as well as you should, or need as much sleep. So sometimes I'd be sitting there late at night, and I could put on a film like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And I might watch it or I might not. And then some mornings you'd be a bit tired, but you don't need as much sleep at different times when you're older and busy. But that's kind of my unwinding, and it's like a story. But someone's telling you a bite-sized story, or 2 hours is all I got to commit. Even like, take a film, Braveheart. Braveheart's one of my favorite films. It probably is my favorite film of all time, right? Braveheart's close to 3 hours long. The amount of times I've never got past like an hour and 20 minutes when I sat down to watch it. I know there's really good stuff there, but it's just too long. It's
you need an evening to watch that.
You do. And like the Lord of the Rings ones and things like that. You need time.
I can't really watch anything past 10:30. I'll just doze off.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But I find at different stages. Now, I was never a particularly great sleeper. I don't know. My mind always used to wander. And actually, back to the running and things. When I was running a lot, was the best I ever slept. My body was physically tired as well. And I do bits and pieces now, but I've kind of set this. Someone was telling me about this way we were supposed to sleep. The ancient Greeks used to sleep for a while, and then they get up and do something, then they go back to sleep later on. They broke it up. But I've kind of ruled myself now after about an hour and a half, I'm still not asleep. I'll get up for a while. I'll read a little bit, maybe have a bit of toast, wander
Really?
around, and then go
If
back
you
to
have a
bed.
sleep,
Because otherwise, I could lie there, and I have lain there for 5 hours awake,
right?
and it's not a nice place to be.
No,
You
I
know,
understand.
so
I sometimes like, so I'm aware that we have sleep cycles.
yeah,
It
yeah,
lasts
yeah,
approximately 90 minutes.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So I would sometimes wake up through this sleep cycles, but sometimes I'll get back to sleep straight away, go to the toilet,
Aye,
get back. Sometimes I could be lying there a while,
aye.
and it's hard to get
Well,
back.
the devices like the Fitbit, I've recorded a lot of my sleep, and I
Mm.
know, and like I'm a 5 hour a night type of person a lot of the time. You know, occasionally every so few days, or maybe not every few days, maybe once every 2 weeks or something, I'll have like 7 or 8 hours one morning, a bit tired, more tired. I wasn't always like this. I was like someone who couldn't get out of bed for a long
Yeah.
time, you know. But as you change at different times, but that notion, and you know that certain types of your phone and things at night aren't ideal. And like I've got like I love these books that talk like the documentaries. I used to like years ago went into those Eason's or this popular science section and something that could be in psychology, could be whatever. Aliens, I didn't care. I'd read it. And have all these information books. And years ago when you didn't have a phone, I used to read a lot. And I had a pile of books beside my bed that I'd read. Some I hadn't read, some I'd only read a wee bit and some whatever. But now I have a whole lot of more books and I'll use them to go to sleep. You read about 7 or 8 pages and then you're kind of, then I'm sleepy enough. You know,
Does help,
I
doesn't
find
it?
it helps.
Yeah.
It does, particularly if it's something that you need to work your brain a bit more for,
Mm.
you know, to comprehend. Some of those like famous, the Gulag Archipelago. You know, I don't know if you ever read this about. It's about communist Russia and the hard things happening in the Gulag. It's a really good book. It's not light reading, you know, and it took me a while to get through. Or some of maybe
But
Jordan
it takes
Peterson's
your
stuff.
mind into like a different
Oh,
place,
it does,
doesn't it?
and it's
And yeah, and then that helps
well, that
relax.
can help, but it depends what you're doing. I suppose it's different if you're reading like a story, and I used to enjoy some sci-fi. I liked fantasy. I liked Lord of the Rings type of
Mm.
stuff, and I like Raymond Feist as this author. I loved his books, but I could easily sit there read there for 7 hours. I could have gone like I'd be supposed to be going to school, and I'd be still sitting there and it was 5 in the morning. But
Mhm.
you were really enjoying the story. And reading is a different thing from a film, and it's a different thing from a series. And that's the thing. Once I start watching a series, one of the things that puts me off them very quick is as soon as I can see their formula, I can see their formula for an episode.
Mhm.
The good producers and things, you don't see it for ages.
Yes.
You know, you can see the same
Okay.
type of thing has happened, and they're
Okay.
doing again. The same character looks like they should be dead at the end of each episode, and they're still alive. And you go, ah.
Is that the analytical part of you then?
I think it possibly
Looking
is.
at
I probably is. Once I can see it, we all want this, you know, we want this disbelief, this kind of magical type of journey. Like if it's a good storyteller would tell you that. And even as a child or even as an adult, some people are good at telling stories and they can catch your attention. And a lot of teachers are like that. You see, they're kind of natural teachers. They're good. And you watch, it's wonderful. You see, like a teacher talking to class and particularly the smaller ones, and they're all listening. I think we all kind of really want that. We want that again. Now, maybe the story's got a bit darker as the time gets
Mhm.
older or something,
Yeah.
but you still want that. And you don't really get that in a bite sized chunk that was made for whatever. And you definitely don't get that in a 15-second video.
No.
And you probably said, well, this is another curious thing. Ask someone, have you seen this film? No, but I know what it's about. Right? Yeah, I saw a clip on YouTube. So what? So you know what, like, 6 Rocky movies are about because you saw like 15 seconds of one movie
I know.
and watched it at double speed.
I'm guilty of that sometimes.
Well, if you can, I don't
Not
think.
movies.
Yeah.
If there's something I want to learn,
Aye.
I'm like maybe put up 1.5, depending on how slow they speak.
Yeah.
I will keep able to get it in 2x. You know.
Yeah, well, if you can, that's I suppose if you can pick it out and you can follow it. And I've watched people doing that and go, wow, you can do that. So you get like the whole 3 hour movie. Why was I wasting my time watching the
Never
3 hour
in a movie though. That takes away from the entertainment
No, I
part of
don't,
it.
don't know if they do it for me, but they're watching
No.
the synopsis of
Oh,
the movie or the
Jesus.
overview of the, you know, but it's that the attention spans is crazy.
Mm.
And they're all designed this short form
That's
content.
the
Like
thing,
even
isn't it?
as we're talking, you want to be dedicated to still be listening to us too. So if
I
you
mean,
are well done.
100%. Hey, it's so true. People just don't have the time for it anymore.
They don't have
They're
time.
moving, and then
Yeah.
it's just like, you know.
Yeah, unless they're really interested in something.
Yeah, exactly.
But in saying that, the likes of, you know, the famous maybe Joe Rogan or a few of these guys, people will sit down and watch 2 hours of him talking to Mel Gibson or something like that. Or
I would, yeah.
yeah, well, I would as well. There are some people who would, or maybe they'll go at it over a period of time because I think that's the thing. You're less likely to become sickened than with it. Something new, something new, something new, something new, turn around, turn around. You get tired of it after a while. You go, oh, I need to
Mhm.
stop.
Yeah.
You know, but it's ways to absorb information, and even audiobooks. I used to listen to them while I drive quite a bit with work, and listen to something. I listened to 13 hours of a book called Why We Sleep. It sounds a weird one. It was actually really interesting. Really interesting patterns about this, and something that I've always had challenges with. So I found it interesting to find out different things. But again, that was not in one 13-hour sitting.
Mm-hmm.
That was over like 3 weeks or something,
Yeah.
of taking it on off. And even on a longer journey, I would find, say if you're driving like from here to Dublin and you've got 3-4 hours, I can't really listen to it for more than about an hour. And I just go back to music or something, or even the radio. I enjoy the randomness of the
Do
radio.
you know what? I do too.
Yeah.
Because my life, I just say my life, no different than anybody else, but my life's quite busy in the sense I'm just making myself busy. So when I'm driving, I sometimes find it hard. I just don't want to have I don't want to be in control. So I
Yeah.
don't want to be
Yeah.
listening to a book. I don't want
Yeah.
to be listening to a podcast. I'd want to know music
Yeah.
or random
Aye.
music, because then it's like letting go.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
And it's great.
No,
it
just
helps a
flicking around
lot.
flicking around the stations and see what catches your attention. And sometimes people laugh at me. Like I might leave on Lyrica FM and some classical stuff.
I'll listen
or
to
I'll go
news
to-
talk.
Yeah, well, exactly, and that can be as well. And like a lot of the news at times it's really negative.
Sometimes there's interesting topics.
Sometimes there are interesting topics, and if you catch them, there's some, the likes of, again, this is my inner geek, like BBC Radio 4 or some of these type of ones. You might just hit it and you're driving. Or I worked in Maynooth for a while, and I was driving down every Sunday evening, and there was some RT program on. I can't remember what it was about. It's the type of one I would never have listened to the rest of the time. But I kept hearing it, and they did a documentary type of hour or something like that. And they became my friend on the Sunday evening on the drive down or whatever, because you didn't want to listen to music all the time. But it's where you are at the time. And I suppose it depends how people travel. In Donegal, a lot of us still drive. If you're in other places where you're always in buses or trains and people have their headphones on all the time, like, I hope they're listening to something useful.
Yeah.
They may be or they may not be. But it's, all these different things that we consume. And technology has given us wonderful stuff. And it continues to give us wonderful stuff. But I'm a firm believer that we have, we've like our mind, that helps. We also have our body and our spirit and things like that as well. And you better be nourishing them in some way.
Yeah.
Whether that's exercise, diet, your own faith, your own religion, what you're doing, something bigger than you, that type of stuff. That's one challenge. The algorithm makes people think that they're the only thing. I had a student one day, and I was talking to them about privacy. It's one of the things I think on risk and compliance and what we do with information. And the student, I was glad that they said this to me, although it kind of shocked me a little bit. They said, sorry, I just do me. I said, excuse me? The English was terrible for a start. But they said, I just do me. And I had to try and figure out what you meant. Like, you're a final year student in your degree, and we're talking about information going over and back. And you're a bit, and I was glad they did, because that gave me an insight to what they had. But they only cared about themselves. And the algorithm many of the algorithms only make you care about yourself. You're the most important thing. That's not great. It's not a great life plan. And if you're fortunate to have grown up with siblings or something, you realize it's not just you. That's a great way to be. But class teaches that, school teaches that. A world where people are just they're the only important thing all the time. Kids change this massively for us. It's wonderful, because other people are more important than us. Your own kid. But the world, the computer-generated, algorithmically controlled type of world, and the AIs will do this as well, because they're programmed to make you stay there. You engage. You stay there as long as possible. But it's about this kind of individualistic type of way. And that's a big break when people aren't, and, I've got other people I'm care with in another country, but are you talking to the people around you? Are you talking to your own community? Are you talking to the people who care? The people who would pick you up off the street if you fell down? Someone's not going to appear here from New York or something and pick you up when you fall over. And maybe they're only friends anyway, because you both pretend to be happy all the time online. So this is part of the world we're in, and it is a challenge as well. There are times for us, and it's very important we have our own time as well. But we're not alone. We're not alone in the world. And we have to interact, and we have to interact with real people. Technology is wonderful. It's my career teaching people how to use it, and I love the privilege of doing that. But one of the things I love about it is the interaction with the people. And I learn. I learned from you in this conversation. I learned from my students. And hopefully they learn something from me, and I help them learn from each other. But it's that interaction, and we don't get everything perfect. But we don't have to. It doesn't have to be perfect. The world's not perfect. The world's got a lot of challenges and there's a lot of bad stuff in there. But if you surround yourself with decent people who care about you, and we have our family and things when we're young, as we get older, it's going to be your friend group, maybe your husband, your wife, your partner, whatever. Hopefully those people still care about us, and we can still build. And that's often your AI friend might not care that much. It'll make you think you care, and it'll say all the right things at the right times. But when push comes to shove, what's it going to do?
Very well said, Owen. Thank you very much. It's been great having you. A real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan.
Could have talked for hours.
We could. Once I get going, I can talk.
There's
I
so
can
much.
talk,
There's
but
so much.
it's wonderful. It's wonderful to chat to you again after all these years.
You
Back
too.
in-
You
yeah.
too. You know,
Ryan
who
was a
knew?
very small student in Skullborough when I worked there a long time ago, and a really good runner.
Only 10 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Owen, thanks so much. Thank you so much. And
Thank
I
you,
wish you all the best with your research and your current career.
Remain good. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.